Oh shit. I wasn't ready for the music. Let's run some music, man. All right, scratch that. What's good, man? We are back with another episode of the Real Rap Coalition podcast. And today we came to bring you another episode brought to you by myself. And that's the reason I cut the music off, because it's not just a regular episode, man. So we ain't even got to do all that music stuff. So what we are getting into today is X-Men 97. And we're actually about to do a review on the first episode of X-Men 97. And we will be reviewing that later on tonight. So what I want to get into is a reaction of Variant Comics on YouTube, and they put out a video called Everything You Need to Know Before Watching X-Men 97. So for anyone like myself or anyone else who needs a refresher or didn't watch the original series in the 90s, you know, that is what we're doing here now. We're about to get a quick little crash course, as we would call it, on the Real World Web, RWC. So yeah, man, let's go ahead and get into it. We're not gonna waste no time because we got a lot of work to do today. So with that being said, let's get into the video.
What's up, my comic comrades? The sequel series to the 90s X-Men animated series X-Men 97 is almost here, and it's picking up where the original 90s series left off, which could be one of the best ideas ever or one of the worst. Either way, since it's been nearly 3 decades since the original X-Men series finale, let's do a full recap refresher of everything you really need to know heading into X-Men 97. So grab your favorite bowl of cereal and favorite pajama pants, because we're going full Saturday morning cartoons up in this piece. Right off the bat, the number one thing you need to remember is,
before we get into the number one thing that we need to remember, let me go ahead and fix something real quick, because I mean it ain't that big of a deal, but also we can fix it. Maybe I can't fix it. Can I fix it? Yeah, I believe I can. What the all right, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's get into the festivities, man. Let's put a X-Men background back there, even though you can't see it the way my picture is set up, but we got an X-Men. Can I get it? Yeah. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, man, let's go ahead and get back into this thing right here. One second.
that Professor X is gone. They even made it a huge point to emphasize this in the X-Men 97 trailer, with Magneto saying Charles left him everything in his last will and testament. This is because in the original 90s X-Men animated series, Charles died in the series finale titled Graduation Day. Well, to be fair, he didn't actually die, he just went away, so to speak. So in the series finale, Henry Gyrich, a prominent anti-mutant campaigner, uses an energy disruptor on Xavier, causing his powers to spin out of control, leading him to fall into a coma. The X-Men try everything they can to save Xavier, but ultimately Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean go to Magneto, and Jean asks Magneto, "How much do you care for Charles?" He responds, "He's my only equal. I owe him my life." Jean says, "What if I told you you're the only one who could save his life?" She tells him a telepathic message to Lilandra, Xavier's romantic partner, and Shi'ar, who possesses advanced tech and science, is Xavier's only hope. You may be able to supercharge his mind since his brainwaves are electromagnetic. Magneto was torn as he was on the brink of victory, reshaping the world with an army of mutants. But ultimately, Magneto's love for Charles prevails, as he does indeed go to Charles' bedside, using his powers to send a supercharged telepathic message to Lilandra. At this point, Charles briefly wakes up and says his heartfelt goodbyes to all the X-Men, saying how proud of them he is. It's pretty heart-wrenching. Ultimately, we see Lilandra gets the message and arrives, telling the X-Men they were correct in thinking that the Shi'ar would have techniques to save Charles. Lilandra says he will survive, but only under Shi'ar care, and that she sympathizes that they can't bear to see him go, but it's the only way he will survive. She then takes Xavier with her to space as the X-Men and Magneto.
So, first things first, man. Professor X is gone, so this series is probably gonna have a lot of storylines without Professor X, but it does seem like, based off this, that there's a chance that he will be revived in this series. So keep that in mind as we go forward and get into it, that Professor X probably won't be in a lot of this series, but if they continue on with this storyline that is continuing from the last time this show was airing, then that means that there's ultimately a quest to get Professor X back healed and healthy and everything. So we'll be looking out for that as well. Let's get back into it.
Watch him go, with the series ending on that note. So Xavier isn't dead per se, he's just been taken away by Lilandra so that the Shi'ar can save his life. But because he's no longer on Earth, the X-Men are left without a mentor figure, and as we saw in the 97 trailer, Magneto was looking to take the new spot, as apparently Xavier left everything to Magneto, including the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. So that's probably going to be one of the biggest things we see in the X-Men 97 series, how the team has dealt or is dealing with the loss of Charles Xavier, and how they're going to deal with Magneto trying to fill the role of Professor X. But that directly leads me to the next big thing you need to remember going into X-Men 97. As I briefly mentioned, in the finale of the X-Men animated series, Magneto was on the brink of complete world domination, reaching his ultimate goal of mutants controlling the world. He literally tells Jean, when she asks for his help, "You lie to torture me. My legions await my command, pledging body and soul to me. With a single word, I can remake the world." But ultimately, his love and care for Charles Xavier caused him to pause all of that to help save Charles's life. But this is crazy. The only person who was ever really able to keep Magneto in check is Professor X. But now he's gone, and not only is he gone, Magneto now owns everything Xavier's built, and it looks like he's going to be taking over the X-Men. So if you ask me, I think Magneto is going to pick up exactly where he left off in the finale episode, but now he's able to utilize all of Xavier's resources to further his world domination, which is wild because he was already going to be...
So I wonder if they're going to do a thing where Magneto has no one to check his power, and so he's going to be running rampant. Like they said, he's trying to complete his plan of world domination, and so I wonder if they're setting this up to bring Professor X back, and then we get the X versus Magneto, big clash at the end or something like that. I don't know, man, but it just got me wondering, like, what they're gonna do with this as far as this Magneto thing, because as he basically just said that and Magneto alluded to earlier, that Professor X was his only equal, and so that was the only person that can keep Magneto in check. So now with him gone, he's probably not gonna have anybody that can match him. I don't know what they plan to do for 10 episodes, but I wonder if they're going to bring Professor X back later, and then they have this clash between Magneto and X. So I'm going to look out for that too. See what potential storylines can come from this as we go along.
Be successful with world domination, as after Charles Xavier was attacked, a crap ton more mutants rallied on Magneto's side, giving him a considerably sizable army to do with what he pleases. The only question is, will the X-Men be more willing to be on Magneto's side this time around because of what happened to Xavier? I don't think all the X-Men will, but I think there will be a few that are gonna want some revenge. At least that would make for good story beats. The point is, Xavier is gone, and Magneto has everything and more to completely see his plans of mutant domination through, with no one to stop him. So it's going to be very interesting to see how X-Men 97 explores this. Okay, so the next important thing you need to remember heading into X-Men 97 is that Jubilee has basically graduated now, becoming a full-on member of the X-Men. For pretty much the entirety of the series, Jubilee was an X-Men in training. In the very first episode of the series, Night of the Sentinels Part 1, Jubilee is rescued by the X-Men, at which point she is taken under their wing and effectively becomes an X-Men in training. But as she progressed in the series, no episode showed her growth more than in Season 5, Episode 6, titled Jubilee's Fair fairy tale theater. In the episode, Jubilee leads a group of school children through a cave system, but because of some seismic activity, they become trapped in the caves. Jubilee sends an SOS signal to the X-Men.
Now that is a extremely familiar sight. Definitely have seen this. And I believe that they made like a big meme or GIF about this over the years, but this right here with Jubilee is extremely familiar. So definitely looking forward to how her character fits into this now that she's graduated as well. So
to save them and decides to tell the children a fairy tale story to kill time. Ultimately, this episode shows how mature Jubilee has become, being the one to keep the children calm and making sure they get out of there safe. So the fact that Jubilee came full circle in the episode where she was now the one leading and protecting the children, when originally she was a teenager or youngster being led and protected by the adults, was great to see. At the end of the episode, Professor X even says, I think our young lady has always been ready for all the adventures to have in this world. With Wolverine saying, yeah, but is the world ready for her? As we see Jubilee run off, ready for adventure. Alluding to the fact that Jubilee is all grown up and ready to handle the world as an adult and as an equal to the X-Men. So with that said, it'll make a lot more sense if we see Jubilee act somewhat differently than we know her from the majority of the original X-Men animated series. Because now she's fully come into her own as a full-fledged X-Men, being the mentor to other young mutants, becoming effectively a full-blown member of the X-Men in the finale Graduation Day. Another big thing to remember is that Morph has rejoined the X-Men as we saw in the 90s X-Men series finale Graduation Day. Yeah, I know a lot happened in the finale episode, but it's just going to make it all the more interesting to see how a lot of the stuff that happened in that episode plays out in the sequel series. Anyway, Morph easily had one of the best arcs throughout the series. First and foremost, he was killed off, or at least we were led to believe he was, in the second episode of the series, Night of the Sentinel.
The morph power obviously is amazing. The shape-shifting power is always fire because of the different things that you can do with it. As we saw with let's say Secret Invasion with Gravik as well, with the scrolls, the shape-shifting power. It has so much potential, even if you talk about the older X-Men live action films, with Mystique, like it is so much stuff that you can do with a shape-shifting power that the possibilities are really endless with shapeshifters. So it's fire that Morph is along with them too after the season finale. So let's get it.
Sentinels Part 2. He was straight up vaporized by a giant Sentinel blast after saving Wolverine while pushing him out of the way, taking the blast himself. But then he was revealed to be alive in the very first episode of Season 2, titled Till Death Do Us Part, Part 1, where he was now under the influence of Mr. Sinister, making him the enemy of his once close friends. Throughout the
Okay. Okay. All right, backtrack. All right, so still a firepower. As of Season 2 of the last time this was aired, like they said, he went over to the antagonist side. So it is even more like how Gravik was in the Secret Invasion as opposed to Mystique. But yeah, man, still a firepower, man. Let's see what the rest of this recap is talking about so we can be more up to date on what's to come with this series.
The series, Morph slowly works his way back to being the good mutant he once was, but still refuses to rejoin the X-Men as he isn't fully secure with himself or trusts himself. But this all came full circle as he did end up rejoining the X-Men team in the finale episode. In the episode, he disguises himself as Xavier after Xavier gets attacked by Guy on televised TV. He was trying to calm the mutant rioting. It ultimately doesn't work, but it's still a massive act of redemption for Morph nonetheless. But what really brings his story...
So I'm saying fire. And pretty much what I was saying before he got to the Season 2 part. But yeah, man, let's see how they continue this story.
Full circle and gives him redemption was Xavier's final words to him as he laid on his deathbed, so to speak. Xavier says, Morph, it's nice to see you home facing your fears. You have proven yourself truly an X-Man. Morph just listens with tears coming down his face. So it's just nice that X-Men the Animated Series started with Morph as a core member of the team and then ended with Morph as a core member of the team. This is why he will be on the main roster at the start of X-Men 97. Speaking of full-time members of the X-Men, the Time Traveler Bishop will also be a full-time member of the team in this new series. Now, they're not just throwing Bishop in there all willy-nilly because he's a cool character, but there's more to it than that. Though he wasn't a full-time member of the X-Men X-Men in the original 90s series, he did regularly appear throughout the series. I mean, he was a massive part of the series' interpretation of the iconic X-Men story Days of Future Past. The point is, if you didn't watch the original 90s X-Men series, don't be shocked to see him on the team. This is actually a very organic addition to the main X-Men roster, since he has an extensive past working with the X-Men throughout the 90s series. Speaking of time-traveling characters, X-Men the Animated Series also introduced Cable. He appeared sporadically throughout the series. He made his first appearance in the episode Slave Island, which was the 7th episode of Season 1. He would also appear in episode 9 of the series, The Cure, and most notably in Season 2, episodes 7 and 8, titled Time Fugitives Part 1 and 2. Now, the reason why I say it's important to remember Cable's involvement in the original series is because, as we saw from the X-Men 97 trailer, Jean is pregnant with Cyclops' baby. And we know Cable's dad is Cyclops, so since Cable is a time-traveling mutant, does that mean X-Men 97 is going to explore Cable as a baby with Jean being pregnant with him? Now, I know what a lot of you are yelling at the screen. That's impossible because Jean isn't Cable's mother in the comics. His mom is a clone of Jean, aka Madeline Pryor, created by Mr. Sinister. But I think if they were smart in the animated continuity, they would just make normal Jean the birth mother of Cable because it would fit.
That would definitely be an interesting storyline. Not gonna lie. Cable is fire. I like the depiction of him that they had in Deadpool 2 as well. And so exploring that storyline of Jean being pregnant and time traveling Cable is, it's almost like the Terminator series that they did where I think John Connor went back in time and his mother was there, but she wasn't pregnant. I think that's a really, really interesting storyline. So yeah, if they do something like that, then that could be fire. And so I mean, I don't see the need of them having Bishop and Cable. So, I don't know if they would have both of them. If Jean is if Jean is pregnant, then that storyline would be fire to have Cable come back in time. I don't know where Bishop would fit in here, especially if Cable is in it. If Cable isn't in it, then okay. Um, but well, you don't need two time traveling heroes in the same story. Yeah, I don't think they would do that. But who knows? I mean, I don't know. I didn't write it.
Fix a lot of annoying continuity issues and just be way less confusing. The point is, if that is indeed the route they go, which I sure hope it is, it would make all the sense in the world given that Cable was a fan favorite guest appearing character from the original series. And since Bishop is now a main member of the X-Men 97 roster who's also a time traveling mutant, it only makes sense that Cable shows back up, and maybe he does because at this point in time, Jean is now pregnant with him. Another thing to
I mean, shout out Apocalypse. I mean, is he saying that Cable would show up to fight Bishop if they both were in the series? Because like when I said that you don't need two time traveling mutants, I don't think having two time traveling mutants on the same side would be any like it's redundant. Like you don't need it. However, I guess if they're opposing each other, I don't know. That brings up a whole bunch of multiverse things, and the multiverse is where a lot of Marvel, DC, a lot of things actually everywhere, everything, everywhere, all at once. It's a lot of different things. The Spider Verse, it's a lot of different things that's utilizing the multiverse in this day and age. So maybe, and with this being a Marvel product as well, maybe they could be utilizing multiverse. But if you got two time traveling mutants on opposite sides and they're time traveling while being adversaries, I don't know, like them, but that might get a little complicated. So I don't know. I'm real interested in seeing what they do if they use both of them. I still don't believe they're going to use both of them, but if they do, I'm interested in seeing what path they go with that.
keep in mind is that Apocalypse has been defeated, but he's not dead. You see, in the four-part story Beyond Good and Evil from Season 4, Apocalypse got a bunch of sidekicks in the Axis of Time so that he can control the entire timeline. But he was defeated by the X-Men with his consciousness ultimately being trapped in the astral plane. But again, he's just trapped, not dead. And I believe he's going to escape in X-Men 97 and be an important part of the series as Apocalypse is one of the biggest X-Men
Not gonna lie, I've been to the astral plane before. It wasn't no apocalypse there when I was there. So I don't know, bro. Bro might have, I don't know. But you wasn't there when I was there. You feel me? So I don't know. I don't know if he's there or not. But all I know is I drove through there, I rode through there, flew through there for better, But I didn't see no apocalypse there, so yeah, I don't know. He might be there.
Bats. All I'm saying is, if he escapes the astral plane, remember that's because he was trapped there at the end of the Beyond Good and Evil story. And the last thing that everybody needs to remember is that humans and mutants are still not getting along. One could go on to say that it's worse than ever, or at least it appeared to be so at the end of X-Men the Animated Series. Remember, the series ended with an anti-mutant campaigner killing, or seemingly killing, Professor X, causing a bunch more mutants to get pissed off.
The storyline that the boys kind of went with too, in their season 3 and Gen V. I believe season 3 is where it really became a big thing. Maybe at the end of season 2. Maybe at the season 2 was because the Stormfront thing happened, and then I think season 2 is when they see that. Was it the end of season 2 or season 3 when they saw that Homelander? I think it was season 3 because Homelander. I don't know. I can't remember, but I know that that's a thing in the boys in Gen V now. The whole not mutants. They're not mutants. Supes versus humans thing. So yeah, they did this back in the '90s for X-Men, and so that's also a storyline that the boys kind of picked up throughout their little tenure. So uh yeah, man, that should be interesting as well. Let's get back to it.
And rally behind Magneto for world domination. So don't be shocked if X-Men 97 starts off with things in complete and utter chaos. That's not saying they're going to be, because we don't necessarily know what has happened in between the original series and this series yet, but things could very well be starting off in a not so great place. And that also isn't to say that the X-Men haven't tried to promote peace and coexistence. That's what they're all about, and Xavier's main motivation. It just didn't work. Regardless, with those key refreshers, you should be ready heading into X-Men 97. It's packed with so many memories for those of us who are 90s kids, and it's definitely got us more excited for the new series. Will it live up to its predecessor? We'll just have to wait and see. But here's hoping they can stick the landing, because if they do, this could potentially lead Marvel to create sequels to other popular 90s Marvel cartoons like Spider-Man the Animated Series. But what about you guys? What are you hoping to see them do with the X-Men 97 series, and are you excited for it? Let us know in the comments. Other than that, we'll see you next time when we give you the history of Thrag.
All right, man. So that's that. Everything you need to know before watching X-Men 97. And so for me, I don't really have any expectations. I'm going into it with an open mind. I have a decent amount of X-Men knowledge. Um, so I'm just going in as a spectator, a viewer, and I'm gonna take it as it is, pause, face value, and I'm gonna give my honest opinion on whether I think it's good, whether I don't like it, whether I think it has potential. Honestly, my prediction is that it will be at least a solid series. I'm thinking it's gonna be good, because a lot of the animated series that I have seen within the last few years have all been pretty good. None of them have really been trash. And so I think to make a trash series in this day and age, 2024, a trash animated series, you have to be really terrible. And this is Marvel we're talking about. Obviously, Marvel has made some trash stuff, but for an animated series that already has a bunch of storylines and comics and things that you can pull from, or and it's been so many years since this went off air, man. You can't come back with some garbage. You know what I'm saying? You can't come back with some bullshit. So my expectation, I have an expectation now. My expectation is that it will be at least a solid show. I'm thinking that it's going to be a good show, so I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm interested in seeing it. We're going to be reviewing it tonight, like I said. And yeah, man. So you'll be able to hear my thoughts, what I think about everything, and what I'm gonna think about the future of it. What's going forward going to be like. So yeah, man. With that being said, this has been another episode of the Real Rap Coalition podcast. My name is Showtime Slim, and we will be back momentarily. Let me play some music again to get us out of here. Nah, I don't like that. Okay. Hey. Okay. Hey. 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 Okay. Hey. 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 Double dutch. Going back in like double dutch. Double dutch. Double dutch. Double dutch. Double dutch. Double dutch. Going back in like double dutch. Like double dutch. Going back in like double dutch. Double dutch. Going back in like double dutch. Double dutch.